There's currently a proposal sitting in Congress that very few people seem to be discussing. And honestly, that surprises me because it directly impacts millions of Americans who are already retired or expect to retire within the next several years. When I first learned about it, I started searching online to see who else was covering it, and I found almost nothing. That lack of attention is exactly why I wanted to take some time today and break it down with you carefully. Before we talk about the proposal itself, let's quickly understand why Social Security is such an important issue to begin with. More than half of retired Americans depend on Social Security for at least half of their monthly income. And among workers preparing for retirement, most expect those benefits to play a major role in supporting them later in life. That means when lawmakers adjust anything involving Social Security, even changes that appear minor at first, those changes can end up affecting your real financial future in meaningful ways. The legislation we're discussing today is House Bill 5284. On the surface, it sounds almost insignificant. The official summary says the bill would require the Social Security Administration to revise terminology used in rules, regulations, guidance, and official materials. Put simply, this legislation is focused on wording. It changes the labels attached to certain Social Security ages and concepts, and your first reaction might be, why would wording even matter? Stay with me because by the time we finish, I think you'll understand exactly why these changes deserve attention and why they could become more important than they initially appear. Let's look at what the proposal would actually do. The bill includes 3 main terminology updates. We'll go through them one by one. The first proposed change would replace the phrase early eligibility age with minimum benefit age. Right now, age 62 is officially known as the early eligibility age. That's the earliest age when someone can begin claiming Social Security retirement benefits. Under the new proposal, age 62 would instead be called the minimum benefit age. Supporters of the bill argue that this wording better explains what happens financially when someone files that early. Claiming benefits at 62 permanently reduces your monthly payment by roughly 30% compared to waiting until your full retirement age. The second proposed change would replace the phrase full retirement age with standard benefit age. Full retirement age, often shortened to FRA, currently ranges from age 66 to 67 depending on the year you were born. This is the point where you qualify for your complete unreduced Social Security benefit. The bill would rename this age the standard benefit age. The third change would replace delayed retirement age with maximum benefit age. Right now, age 70 represents the point where your Social Security benefit reaches the highest amount possible. For every year you delay benefits beyond your full retirement age, your monthly payment increases by around 8%. By age 70, your payment reaches approximately 124% of the amount you would have received at full retirement age. The proposal would relabel age 70 as the maximum benefit age. So the big question becomes this: do these wording changes actually matter in a meaningful way? In one sense, they do not change the underlying math at all. The ages stay the same, the percentages remain the same. The benefit calculations are identical regardless of the terminology. If you file at age 62 today, you receive about 70% of your full retirement benefit. If this bill became law tomorrow, you would still receive that exact same percentage. Nothing about the actual structure of benefits changes under this proposal. However, language absolutely affects the way people think. There's a reason advertisers and marketers spend huge amounts of money deciding what to call products, services, and experiences. The word minimum creates a very different emotional reaction than the word early. When someone hears minimum benefit age, their brain immediately interprets that as the lowest possible option, something less desirable, something potentially negative. By contrast, early eligibility age sounds far more neutral and maybe even slightly appealing, as though you're simply accessing benefits ahead of schedule. The same principle applies to the other wording changes. Full retirement age sounds complete, finished, and ideal. Standard benefit age feels more ordinary and average, and maximum benefit age sounds much more rewarding and attractive than delayed retirement age, which emphasizes waiting and postponement. So yes, terminology matters. But the deeper issue is not only why these specific words were selected. The bigger issue is what these wording changes may be preparing Americans to accept in the future. Here's the concern I think deserves serious attention. When government agencies or lawmakers begin changing official terminology, it often isn't only about making things clearer. Sometimes those wording shifts make future policy changes easier to present to the public later on. Think about the history of Social Security. When the system first began, full retirement age was 65. Eventually, that moved to 66, and later to 67 for younger generations. Every increase effectively reduced lifetime benefits because people had to wait longer to receive their full monthly amount. Now imagine a future where the standard benefit age, as this bill would rename it, gets raised from 67 to 68 or 69 or even 70. That would represent a massive change for future retirees. And if lawmakers introduce that idea using the updated language, it might become easier to persuade the public to accept it. Policymakers could argue, we're simply adjusting the age for receiving the standard benefit. The minimum benefit age is still 62. The maximum benefit age still exists at 70. We're only modifying the standard point in the middle. Framed that way, a substantial reduction in lifetime benefits could sound far less severe than it actually is. That possibility is why this proposal deserves closer attention as it moves through Congress. Now let's shift to something even more important, and often misunderstood, the actual math behind deciding when to claim Social Security. The truth is that the decision is far more complex than most online calculators and mainstream retirement advice suggest. Here's the basic breakdown of how benefits change depending on the age you claim. Filing at 62 gives you roughly 70% of your full retirement amount. At 63, the percentage rises to about 75%. At 64, around 80%. At 65, roughly 86.7%. At 66, approximately 93.3%. At 67, most current retirees receive 100% of their benefit. Waiting until 68 increases benefits to around 108%. Age 69 increases it to approximately 116%. And delaying until age 70 raises benefits to around 124%. As of January 2025, the average monthly Social Security benefit was slightly below $2,000. Meanwhile, the maximum monthly benefit available to someone retiring at full retirement age in 2025 was slightly above $4,000. Here's where many people make a major mistake in their thinking. They see these percentages and automatically conclude that delaying benefits is always the smartest financial move. But that conclusion only works if you ignore what could happen to the money you receive earlier. Most break-even calculations assume that anyone claiming at 62 immediately spends every dollar and earns no return on that money whatsoever. The traditional argument for waiting goes something like this. Claim early and you receive smaller monthly checks. Wait longer and you receive larger checks. Eventually, the larger checks catch up and surpass the smaller ones in total dollars collected. That crossover point is called the break-even age, and for many people it falls somewhere between age 78 and age 80. Conventional advice then says if you expect to live beyond that point, delaying benefits is probably better. But there's a major flaw in that analysis. It assumes your early Social Security payments produce zero investment return. It assumes you neither save nor invest any of those checks. Once you change that assumption, the math shifts dramatically. If someone claims early and earns even a modest 2% annual return on part of those benefits, the break-even age moves out to roughly age 81. At a 4% annual return, the advantage of waiting becomes much smaller. At around 5%, the difference between filing early and filing later becomes surprisingly minor even well into advanced age. And here's the key follow-up question. Is earning 4% to 5% annually necessarily risky? As of 2025, United States Treasury securities, which are backed by the federal government and considered among the safest investments available, were yielding somewhere between approximately 3.7% and 4.4%. That means someone could potentially claim Social Security early, invest part of those payments into Treasury securities with relatively low risk, and weaken much of the standard break-even argument for delaying. So who should consider claiming early, and who may benefit from waiting longer? This is where personal circumstances become incredibly important, and there is no universal answer that works for everyone. But there are some useful guidelines worth considering. Situations where claiming early may make sense include cases where filing at 62 allows someone to retire substantially sooner while they are still healthy and active enough to enjoy those years fully. Time and health together are incredibly valuable. If waiting until 67 gives you more money but fewer healthy years to enjoy retirement, that trade-off deserves honest consideration. Another reason early claiming may make sense is if someone has reason to expect a shorter than average lifespan due to family medical history, existing health problems, or other serious concerns. In those situations, collecting benefits earlier may be financially rational. Early claiming can also work well for people who have the discipline and knowledge to invest part of those benefits productively, rather than spending every dollar immediately. On the other hand, there are strong reasons why delaying benefits may be the better option for many people. One major reason is family longevity. If your parents and grandparents routinely lived into their late 80s or 90s, there's a reasonable chance you may as well. Social Security is unique because for many retirees, it's the only guaranteed inflation-adjusted income stream they have. Benefits rise with inflation, continue for life, and don't depend on market conditions. The longer you expect to live, the more valuable that guaranteed income becomes. Delaying benefits can act as a form of insurance against outliving your savings. There's another issue that deserves more discussion in retirement planning conversations: healthy life expectancy. Average lifespan and healthy lifespan are not the same thing. The World Health Organization tracks healthy life expectancy, which measures not only how long people live, but how many of those years are spent in relatively good health. In the United States, healthy life expectancy is about 66.1 years. That's barely beyond the traditional retirement age of 65. Compare that to countries such as Japan, Singapore, South Korea, Switzerland, Spain, and France, where healthy life expectancy often reaches 72 years or more. In practical terms, many Americans spend most of their healthiest years working. By the time retirement arrives, a large portion of their healthiest and most energetic years may already be behind them. If future legislation eventually pushes the standard benefit age even higher, more people may end up working during the very years when they are healthiest enough to truly enjoy retirement, travel, hobbies, and family experiences. That's not a minor issue. Retirement rates in America have steadily declined over the past 2 decades across multiple age groups. Among adults between ages 55 and 59, retirement rates dropped from nearly 20% in the early 2000s to roughly 11% today. Among adults between 65 and 69, retirement rates declined from about 76% to around 70%. Americans are retiring later and later. Any future changes that discourage early claiming or raise the age for receiving full benefits could intensify that trend even further. So here's the main takeaway. House Bill 5284 may appear to be a small administrative bill focused only on terminology. And maybe that's ultimately all it becomes. But it still deserves attention because language shapes public perception, and public perception shapes future policy debates. If Americans spend years hearing age 67 described as the standard benefit age rather than the full retirement age, future lawmakers may find it psychologically easier to raise that age higher. The argument becomes smoother and less alarming. Instead of saying benefits are being cut, policymakers could frame it as a simple adjustment to the standard age for receiving benefits. Given concerns surrounding healthy life expectancy, declining retirement rates, and the heavy reliance millions of Americans have on Social Security income, that possibility deserves serious thought. What can you do right now? Stay informed. Run your own calculations carefully. Don't depend entirely on simplistic retirement calculators that assume zero return on early benefits. Think honestly about your own health, your family history, your finances, and what you want retirement to actually look like. Social Security claiming decisions are deeply personal. No generic formula, government proposal, or online calculator can fully determine the right answer for you. But understanding how the system works, including how lawmakers may be quietly reshaping the language surrounding it, puts you in a much stronger position to make decisions you'll feel confident about for many years ahead. Stay informed, keep paying attention, and keep asking important questions.